हाय गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू द पेंसिल डिजाइन। माय नेम इज विनय और आज की क्लास में हम एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं विच इज कॉल्ड शेड एंड शैडो। So starting with the very first part of it, that is shade and shadow. We'll go with the definition, and today you guys will learn how light interacts with objects to create shade and shadows. So, starting with the first part of it, that is shade. What is shade? When something is away from the light, so that space or the part of that object creates the shade. And shadow, on the other hand, when something blocks the light and makes a dark space known as shadow. I'm going to show you some visual examples. In this first diagram, you guys can see easily that we have an object here that is a cube. The opposite part from the source of light, which is showing by these arrows, is known as shade. And the dark space created by the blocking of light is known as shadow. You guys can easily see this thing. There's a table and a hanging cube making the shade and the shadow. So the example is talking about a cube hanging in the air has some sides in light, which means this upper part, and some sides in shade, away from light, the right hand side part. The table is in light, but the cube blocks the light and makes a shadow on it. You guys can see clearly here. So the cube shaded part creates a shadow on the table's lighted part. Very easy to understand this diagram with the help of the definition. Now, coming to the next slide, I am going to talk about one more interesting example. That is the shade line. What does it mean and why it is important? So let's discuss about the line that divides light and shade on an object, that is known as shade line. It shows where light stops and shade begins. This line decides the shape of the shadow. For the flat shapes, such as cube, cuboid, or any other 3D form that has the flat surface, one side is light, the other side is shade. I have shown you the example of the cube. This is talking about that. And always remember that shade and shadow exist only when there is a light source. Light can be, there are two type of lights. One is known as parallel light or parallel rays, which is coming from the universal source of light that we have the sun, and radial rays, which is the part of the local source of light, like from a lamp, bulb, or might be a candle. I'm going to show you some visual examples of it so that you can understand it. So we have the visual examples here. You can see various 3D forms and this type of a flat structure of the like human beings. So this is the line. As you can see in this pyramid, the right hand side is the shade and the left hand side is the brighter part. And the between line in this pyramid is known as shade line. And this is the shadow, which is like a 2D triangle. You can compare all the objects you can see in this slide to find out the shade line. For example, for the sphere, we have it here, right? So let's discuss the next part of it. That is going to help you a lot. So the most important part, because when you guys are going to draw and sketch anything, whether it is in color by using colored pencils or by using regular pencil rendering, you guys should know that what is your source of light and how you guys are going to make the shadow and the shaded part of that object. So to understand that, you guys need to know the types of light. So first we have the sunlight, which is the universal source. Because sun treat planet Earth at a certain time as a single object. So in that situation, the lines are parallel or the rays are parallel to each other. So almost parallel, we can call it, used in outdoor and architectural drawing for students going to prepare for NATA examination or JEE paper 2 for architecture. To understand the universal source of light, that is sunlight, is very, very important for you guys. Okay. Now going to talk about next thing, that is local source of light, right? Local source can be a bulb, candle, lamp. So in this, what happens? Rays spread out, diverge, used in indoor sketches, still life, product design, etc. I show you this concept first of all. So you guys need to understand about the first section, that is the universal source of light. So this is a diagram about the sun and the solar system. The sun is like a huge light bulb in the space. Planets, moons, meteoroids are like small objects around it. The sun shines on each planet as if it is one whole object. Each planet gets light and also casts shadow in the space. But because there is no flat surface, so it's not possible for us to see that shadow. Now, this is the next part that is going to be very, very important for you because it is quite relevant for us. So, the sun and the earth. The sun is very far, so its rays reach us almost parallel. That's why shadow of all things, trees, buildings, people, fall in the same direction at one time. For example, at sunrise, shadows are long and point towards the west, right? I'll show you some visual examples in upcoming slides so that you guys can understand everything. So you have to understand this concept as well. As you can see in the right hand side, there's a picture of a landscape which is showing the shadow near about between time 4 to 5 p.m. afternoon. So it is making shadow in the same direction, almost same. So the sun is very far away from us or from human being. Because of this distance, its light rays reach the earth almost in parallel lines. When we draw sunlight, we show the rays as straight and parallel. This type of light is used in outdoor drawings, landscapes, architectural sketches to make shadows look natural, right? So get to the some visual examples here, sun position and the shadows. So in this left hand side, very first example, you guys can see there are two arches and this is the sun. It depends also the shadow and the shading part on the direction or the angle of this object. As you can see, both are not same. They are inclined towards different angles. In this situation, the shadow's length will be almost same if the objects are identical. But if the angle is different, the shadow will be slightly different, right? So this is the 3D object, which are two arches, and the shadow is looking quite 2D, right? The middle example is a good example. This is a cuboid, which can be anything, like it can be a house or anything you guys can draw. So you can see the lines which are coming out of the universal source of light and the baseline, that is an imaginary line. We draw these lines, and after that we convert the space to show the shadow. Once you are comfortable with the shadow, you will be able to make the shade as well, which will be different. The sketching part, we will discuss about how to do the sketching and rendering, but Before that, it's very important for you guys to understand the concept of the sources of the light, right? Now, this is the third example. In the right hand side is showing the source of light, that is sun, and some imaginary lines are helping you to make the shadow. And there's a shade line as well, right? This is one of the very good visual examples of a city or town where human beings, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 figures are there. And you can see the angle of the shadow or the source of light is treating them as single object. To the direction of the shadow is in the right hand side from left to right. Okay. Now, this thing is going to be very, very important for you. You guys need to understand this is we call time graph. So I'm going to show you practically how to draw this time graph. Okay. So now I have some objects with me. What I'm going to do here, like we have 3D forms. I'm going to show you the shadow, how the shadow creates by a source of light. So I have a flashlight here. So you can see this. If I'm going to put it like top view, so shadow will be very less, small shadow. But if I'm going to change the angle, for example, this is a very good example. You guys can see how shadow is changing for this as well. I'll show you some more visual examples so you guys can understand how we draw the shadows. Like this is a cone. And if I take different type of 3D forms, you guys can see and easily understand how the shadow is created with the source of light. There is a situation like for the local source of light when we have the multiple sources or more than one. So you can see slightly we have two shadows are created. If we have more than that, might be three sources of light. We can see the shadows clearly, right? So this is a visual example which is going to help you a lot in order to understand that how shadow is created. And it depends also on the intensity of the source of light. If light is very intense, it is going to make a very dark and visible shadow. But if it is not intense, it will make a very light shadow. Like see this example, the star shape 3D form. Okay. Now I am going to show you how to draw this time graph that you have to practice, and it is going to help you a lot to understand how do we draw the shadows. So starting with the circle, you just need to use your compass to make a circle like this. Once you are done with the circle, you guys need to draw a vertical line, something like this. Dotted line or a normal perfect vertical line, both will work well. So what I did, I basically divided this into two parts, left and the right. Now I will do one thing. I'll make a horizontal line as well, similar to the previous one. And the center point of the circle is very, very important. Right? So we divided this circle into two parts first and later into four sections. So this upper part, the entire part, we call it day.
and this entire bottom part is the section of night. Right now, you guys need to understand this is what I'm making is called the time graph, and this is important for what? To make the shadow with the universal source of light, that is sun. Right now, I would like to tell you that when the sun is at 90-degree angle, this is 90-degree. You know how it makes the shadow, and this section we call it 0-degree, left hand side. You guys can measure this with the help of your protector, and this part is 180-degree, so we'll use the upper part. And this section only between 0-degree to 90-degree is called the section of AM, morning time, and this right hand side part is known as PM. Right, so 0-degree is actually when we have to make the shadow at 6 a.m. in the morning. So we'll use the 0-degree angle, so which means the endless shadow will be there. If we are going to make the minimum shadow, that is at 12 noon, 12 p.m. So that will give you the minimum shadow of tree or any object that is located outside. The same thing happen at 6 p.m. to make the endless shadow in a different direction, right? I will explain you in upcoming classes how to make this in a practical manner, right? Now, if I supposed to make the shadow at 7 a.m. in the morning, what I need to do? I will use my protector to find out the other angles as well, right? So what I'm going to do here, see this. I put this protector, this upper part, and the next angle will be, if it is 0, I started with 0. The next will be 15 degree. So 0, 10, 15, something like this. The next will be after 15, that will be 30. 0, 10, 20, 30, something like this. So I'll show you in upcoming slides that how to take the angles. So it will be of 7 a.m., 8 a.m., so on. So I would like to tell you now that time angle. Time angles. If you want to make shadow, the time is 6 a.m. in the morning. You guys will use 0-degree left, the angle in the protector. Same for 7 a.m. we use 15-degree left. For 8 a.m. we use 30-degree left, because the left hand side is the part of AM to show the shadow when the time is before noon. 9 a.m. in the morning, that is for 45-degree, the angle will be left hand side. For 10 a.m. it's going to be 60-degree left. For 11 a.m. it's going to be 75-degree left. And for 12 p.m., that is noon, we use 90-degree vertical. Vertical top, right? On the other hand, if we are going to do the PM section, which means time is 1 p.m., so I will use the angle of 105-degree. For 2 p.m., I am going to use 120-degree. This will be now in the right hand side. For 3 p.m., I'll be using 135-degree right. For 4 p.m., 150-degree angle, right hand side. For 5 p.m., I'll be using 165-degree, right. And for 6 p.m., I'll be using 180, opposite of this one, right. Okay. So I have shown you examples of how shadows are being created with the source of light, as well as now you guys know how to draw this time graph and what are the different angles. I'm going to show you one more slide, that these are the angles and this is the time. You guys can take a screenshot of this for your practice purposes. Here is the diagram in the right hand side, and these are the angles that you will be select to make the shadow with the universal source of light, right? So these are some visual examples with the universal source of light, how to create the shade and the shadow with the proper shade line. Now the next section that I'm going to discuss with you, that is called the second part of it, light from local sources. So the definition is about some light comes from nearby sources like a bulb or a candle. Because they are close, their light rays spread outward in all direction, which is called radial. Radial means this. This is the source of light, and the light rays are going to all the directions, 360-degree, upside and the bottom side, right and the left, front and the back, all the directions. So that is called the radial. When we draw using such light, we show the rays as radiating from a single point, as you guys can see in this diagram clearly. So here are some good example of the local light source shadows. So as you can see in this image, the left hand side, there is a lamp and the shadow is being created of this table with this source of light. And here in this middle image, you can see there is a bulb over the table, and you can see the direction is different for this table and the chair. In the right hand side picture, it is a very good visual example of making a shadow of a basic 3D form, that is a sphere. So this is the source of light, that is a torch or a bulb. Light rays are towards this surface which is very bright. This is the shade line and this is the shade. With the different type of pencils we have created this, and this is the cast shadow, right? Now get to the next part of it. For local source of light, here are two examples you guys can see in the slide. One is this source of light is the candle over the table, and there are a lot of knives are penetrated in different surfaces, but the shadow is created in different directions because of the radiating light rays. And this right hand side image is about how to perfectly do the sketching to show the shade line, shade, as well as the shadow. So you guys can take a screenshot of this. This right hand side image is very, very important for you. It is showing the various sections. So I have these two exercises for you guys so that you guys can create the shadows. So the first image, you guys need to draw the shadow for the tree, and also need to give what time is it. Is it AM, PM, and what time is it? You guys can use the time graph to complete this exercise. And it's very easy. I would suggest you to read the question number 1 and question number 2 and try to draw the given image, right? So the first question is talking about in which position will the clock cast the biggest shadow. You guys need to find out the right answer by yourself for this. And the question number 2 is in which position will the cactus cast the smallest shadow, right? And for your reference, there are two images given of a cat shadow in this upper part. So you guys can use your logic and try to solve both of these exercises. Fine. So this is the end of this class. Thank you so much for watching this class. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye. We'll see you in the next class very soon.